You are about to enter a city that history tried to bury but could never kill. A city where the ground can open, the sky can burn, and people still wake up to fight another day. What you are about to see is not a story of kings. It is a story of survival. Subscribe to Binary BC, Naples 1800. Before the world learned to move fast, this city already knew how to burn slowly. It lived between a restless sea and a silent volcano, between rulers who feared losing power and people who feared losing bread. Every morning began with noise, not because Naples loved sound, but because silence meant danger. Carts rattled over stone, vendors shouted prices like prayers, and footsteps rushed as if time itself was hunting them. Houses leaned toward each other like tired men sharing secrets, stacked high and tight, afraid of falling and afraid of being alone. Above them all stood Vesuvius, calm and watching, a reminder that the earth itself could rise and erase everything without warning. People in Naples did not trust the future, so they lived loudly in the present, loving hard, fighting harder, and surviving however they could. But Naples was different from every other city in Europe. It was not ruled by comfort. It was not ruled by peace. It was ruled by hunger, fear, and a mountain that could decide the end of everything in a single breath. Every person here grew up knowing that tomorrow was not promised, and that made every hour feel heavy. Men did not plan for retirement. They planned for dinner. Women did not dream of luxury. They dreamed of their children surviving winter. Children did not dream at all. They worked, they ran, they learned the streets, and the streets shaped them into adults before their time. The streets were narrow and crowded, filled with the smell of bread, fish, sweat, smoke, and sewage, all mixed into one breath that the city never stopped breathing. Stone walls trapped heat in summer and cold in winter. Water was carried by hand. Fire was made by hand. Life itself felt handmade. Children ran barefoot over stone that burned in summer and froze in winter, learning hunger before they learned words. By 10, they understood work. By 12, they understood loss. By 15, they understood fear. One room often held a whole family, sometimes two, sometimes strangers who became family because there was no space for loneliness. Privacy was a luxury few could afford. Noise was constant. Quiet felt unnatural. Women washed clothes at public fountains, their hands red from cold water and hard labor, talking and arguing and laughing because silence felt like surrender. They spoke of neighbors, of prices, of sickness, of death, of love, all in the same breath. Men worked until their hands split, lifting stone, pulling nets from the sea, shaping iron, carrying loads that bent their backs early and forever. If a man could not work, he begged. If he could not beg, he vanished, swallowed by the city like smoke in the wind. There were no safety nets, only people, and sometimes not even that. The sea ruled Naples as much as any king. Ships arrived carrying silk, spices, soldiers, rumors, and disease. Each ship changed lives before it even touched the dock. Fishermen left before dawn, whispering prayers not to the sea, but to survive it. Fish was food, money, and hope. When the sea was generous, the city ate. When it was cruel, the city starved. Markets exploded with color, red tomatoes, silver fish, brown bread, green herbs, but behind every color was a hand ready to steal because hunger moved faster than honor. Stealing was not shameful. Starving was. Mothers stole for children. Children stole for themselves. Survival made its own laws. Crime was not hidden. It walked openly, smiled openly, and ate openly. There were rules in the streets, but not the kind written in books. Look wrong and you paid. Speak wrong and you bled. Oh wrong and you disappeared. In the cracks of fear and poverty, shadow networks grew powerful, offering protection for a price and punishment for disobedience. People learned early who to respect, who to fear, and who never to cross. Even children knew which streets were safe and which streets swallowed people whole. Religion wrapped around Naples like a second skin. Church bells ruled time. Saints watched corners. Candles burned day and night. People prayed before work, after work, and before sleep, not because life was gentle, but because it was brutal. Faith was not comfort. Faith was a shield. Funerals were as common as weddings, sometimes more. Death was not shocking. It was familiar, walking beside you, sitting next to you, waiting patiently. Doctors knew little. Medicine was weak. Prayer filled the space where knowledge had not yet reached. If you survived childhood, you were already winning a war. Education belonged to the rich. Books were rare. Time to read was rarer. But the poor were educated by life itself. They learned to read faces, footsteps, silence, hunger, and danger. They knew when to run and when to hide. They knew when a smile meant kindness and when it meant trouble. These lessons were written not on paper, but in scars. Europe was shaking, and Naples felt every tremor. Kings feared revolution. Armies moved like storms. Ideas traveled faster than soldiers. In 1799, a republic rose and fell, leaving blood behind it like a shadow that never fully faded. By 1800, trust was broken. Neighbors watched neighbors. Every knock at night carried fear. Every whisper carried risk. Soldiers walked the streets, boots striking stone, guns catching candlelight. Some people cheered them, some cursed them. Most feared them. Anyone could be loyal, anyone could be a traitor, anyone could vanish before sunrise. Yet life refused to stop. Music still played in taverns, mandolins singing of love, loss, and longing, because music forgot hunger even when people could not. Street performers juggled for coins, eating one day and starving the next. Plays filled small theaters where people cried for beautiful suffering on stage, because real suffering in the streets was too ugly to watch. Laughter still existed, but it was sharp, like it could break at any moment. Vesuvius watched everything. Sometimes it smoked, sometimes it slept. Everyone remembered the stories of towns buried, lives frozen in ash, time stopped by fire. The mountain did not need to move to be feared. Its shadow was enough. Earthquakes shook the city without warning. Walls cracked, people screamed, and then life continued because disaster was normal, fear was normal, loss was normal. At sunset, the sky turned gold and red, and from far away Naples looked peaceful, almost gentle, like a painting. From close, it breathed chaos. Smoke rose from kitchens, from fires, from dreams that burned too hot. Couples walked by the sea, speaking of tomorrow as if tomorrow was promised. Old men sat in doorways telling stories that grew larger every year, because memory was the only treasure they owned. Women sold flowers with tired smiles, hiding exhaustion behind color. Naples in 1800 was not beautiful because it was clean. It was beautiful because it refused to die. It stood between fire and water, between power and poverty, between past and future. Every stone had heard screams. Every street had seen blood. Every church had felt prayers heavy with fear. And still people woke up. Still they worked. Still they loved. Still they sang. The miracle of Naples was not its palaces, not its art, not its rulers. The miracle was that life continued where it should have stopped. Naples did not ask to be saved. It demanded to be understood. Because in 1800, Naples was not just a city. It was a battlefield between hunger and hope, between fear and fire, between what is and what might be. And every person inside it was fighting quietly, loudly, desperately, just to stay alive. If you want to keep traveling through lost cities, forgotten worlds, and moments history tried to erase, subscribe to Binary BC.